Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have Coach Chris Smith. He is the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach at, is it the Southlake Carroll or just Southlake Carroll? I don't know. Like when you win so much, I don't know. Do you get automatically the fee in front of it?
It's weird. It's Southlake Carroll, but it's that's how when I grew up in Texas, that's how everybody said it. It's Southlake Carroll. But once you get employed here, they're quick to tell you it's not Southlake Carroll. It's just Carroll High School.
Okay.
Because it's a Southlake. There's pieces of Southlake, Keller, and Grapevine all within our district, so they're quick to tell you it's not Southlake Carroll. It's just Carroll. So if you're not from around here, it's Southlake Carroll.
Okay, so we'll just say Carroll at Carroll High School in the great state of Texas. How are you doing, Coach?
Good, doing good. Last day of school today, so you can't do bad on the last day of school.
Yeah, I got about a week left because we didn't start till like September 1st or 2nd. I don't remember what it was. So we started a lot later than I would like to, but it is what it is. How did you end up at Carroll? Like I've read your bio a little bit, but for people who don't know you or had a chance to listen to some of your great stuff, because I know you've done some clinics here and there and got one scheduled, I think, for the spring, later in the spring or summer. Yeah.
Yep.
How did you end up at Carroll?
So it was kind of a small world in coaching. So I started out coaching at Carthage High School in East Texas, a little 4A school. And we actually worked for my old high school coach. Got to know coaches through recruiting and a guy named B.J. Anderson, who was the offensive line coach at A&M. Just like this, sitting around talking ball, got to know each other. One day he called and said, "Hey, I got an assistant line coaching job. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Well, sure." And this is the time he was at Texas A&M. So took that position, went down there and worked it for 3 years as the assistant line coach at A&M and got to know different people there. After 3 years, I actually went back to Carthage as offense coordinator. And after about 8 months, we were lucky. We won our fifth state title, and everything was going good. And all of a sudden, Coach Dodge, a friend of mine, reached out and said, "Hey, Coach Dodge is getting the Southlake Carroll job. Would you be interested in his line coach and offense coordinator?" I was like, "Well, sure," knowing the program. And so didn't know Coach Dodge. He was at A&M, and he left in about March, and I showed up in April.
Okay.
So we never actually worked together. We just kind of had mutual buddies, and that's kind of how we got in touch and been here ever since. Just finished my third season.
Was Zeke Dixon at Carthage when you were there?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I talked to Zeke like 3 weeks ago. So okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's my guy. So small world, like I said, with coaching and everything, we all cross paths. So me and Zeke and John Arnett played together. Zeke was a quarterback and I was the center. My wife and his wife were in the same sorority growing in college. And so my wife and his wife were friends. Me and Zeke were friends. We all meet up. My wife and I, we were already dating, but then Robin and Zeke started dating, got married. Then we had a chance I went to A&M in 2014. He got hired in Carthage as I was leaving, so we never worked together.
Yeah.
For those 3 years. And then I came back. We had one season where we worked together, and then I left again. But yeah, me and Zeke have known each other for over 20 years.
Now speaking of John Arnett, I've warned you already, but I was told to ask you about this, about him snapping your leg in half.
Yeah.
Did you want to, and him just walking away? Now, in his defense, I will say this because I've asked him about this most recently. He says he didn't just walk away. He looked at it, went, "Oh crap," and then walked away. So
that's it.
Yeah. So and then he was asked in the meeting next day if he saw you break your leg because he acted like he did it at practice. So how did John Arnett exactly break your leg?
So it's third day of fall camp, 2001. Kind of dating ourselves on how old we are. And we're in shells, and I'm playing center. John's playing right guard, and we're running inside zone to the left. And I probably didn't take good footwork and got stuck on a shade, and I wasn't getting good movement. But in my defense, John took his guy and did everything that a coach tells you not to, and threw him into my leg, threw him down. And so my right leg was planted. John takes his guy and throws it into my leg. We all pile up. And me not knowing, I didn't know I broke it. I thought I really just blew. I'd never been hurt before, so I thought I blew my knee. My knee was in pain. And everybody's unpiling. I'm going to get up, and I flip over, and I realize my leg's not facing the way it's supposed to.
Ooh.
And then John realizes that as well, and just goes, like you said, "Oh crap," and walks off and pretends like he never even knew it. And then he's like, somebody said something about my leg was broken. John's like, "What do you mean his leg's broken?" Like he's playing it off like he had no idea that it happened when he had been the one that had caused the the deal. So for every year since then, since I would meet John at coaching clinics, you walk up and give each other a hug and say, how you doing? And I always tell us, my leg really hurts, John, but I'm doing all right. It's kind of how we always greet each other. So my leg's killing me, but I'm okay.
Hey, there you go, Coach. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're obviously going to talk inside zone. Ironically, that's the play you broke your leg on. But I mean, have you always been a zone guy? Like before we get into inside zone, like I mean, because some guy, I mean, like every O line coach in America will tell you, well, I can coach gap or zone, but I prefer XYZ, or they'll BS you and say they don't care. But let's be honest, some guys just prefer to coach one or just better at coaching one. So have you always just been a zone guy?
Yeah, for the most part. So when we first got to Carthage in 2006, they were a triple option stack eye team. And that was my first time to have the line coaching job by myself. And so we really had to come in there and start and really just throw everything at them and kind of see what stuck. And that was really the easiest thing to get taught at the time was the inside zone. And so it's kind of what we started with. And every year we would dabble a little bit based on the bodies we had. We were a 4A school at the time, about 700 kids in the whole high school. So you kind of had to mix and match what you were good at. Some years we had bigger bodies, but we were always that was going to be our play. And then based on our bodies, we would say, okay, do we want to try to run a little gap scheme this year? Do we want to be more of a dart team based on the size of kids we have? But yeah, I've always been an inside zone. I feel like it's just kind of, I don't know, it just hits my brain right and something I believe in.
Now, I mean, how do you approach your inside zone? And what I mean by that is there's like 17 different ways to block inside zone. I'm gonna say that nicely, like because everybody's got different count. If they count it, they have a different count system on who's the 0, who's the 1. Like some people go across the line, some go, yeah, what I mean. Some people, I know, teach both the old school step, this is your gap, and then they also teach the count system, so they have a change up. Some are a lot more man oriented than count systems. So how do you approach your inside zone?
So our inside zone, and I was really my last year at A&M. I got to work for a guy named Jim Turner, who was he left A&M, went to the NFL, Cincinnati Bengals, and I learned a ton from him on the inside zone, and it really kind of changed how I taught it a little bit. And so our big philosophy here, the day one we teach it off a count, and we start our count inside out by rule. And so that kind of gets our lower levels, middle schools taught, hey, our rules are 1, 2, 3, backside A, backside B. That gets the play started and we go. Once we kind of progress to that, we then we start our calls play side tackle. So if we're running inside zone to the right, the play side tackle will start the count. He'll make the front side point, and then it kind of shuffles itself back as it goes. And so we start counting off as we go and making different combination calls. So if we're going to screw up anything, it's usually on the backside. We'll at least get the play started. If we chili dip one, it'll be on the backside.
Yeah.
But and then from there, the big thing we stress on our inside zone, which it's different. People, you hear everything from mid zone to wide zone to tight zone to whatever different name you want to call it. Our big deal on how we stress it is the front side of the play. We want to displace it. We're not trying to turn it. We're not trying to press it vertical. We're trying to displace it, keep it on the board, keep it on the line of scrimmage, and press it that way. And we want to lift the backside of it. Okay. And so that's our big coaching points we talk to our kids is displace the front side and lift the backside. And that's kind of our foundation. And ours is more of a probably, our aiming point to our running backs, the play side leg of the center.
Yeah. From
the offset gun. And so he's chasing the play side leg of the center, reading the A-gap defender. So it's not a downhill dive inside zone, and it's not a 2 yards outside the open tackle inside zone. It's truly A-gap, front side A-gap press and go from there.
Now, obviously, you see a variety of fronts. You mentioned your back there. How much is he reading? I'm assuming he's reading front side A defender, not back side A defender. I mean, because he can get a little.
Yeah, so he's reading. It depends. He's reading the A gap defender. So if we're running it to a shade, he's going to read the shade. If we're running it at a 3, he's going to read the backside shade.
Okay. So he's going to read whoever the down A gap defenders. Okay.
Yes, sir. And our big deal, we talk to that back is a lot of times if you run it to a 3, he's going to feel I got to cut this thing back. Our big coaching point we talk to him is he's got to bring that front side backer down.
Yeah.
Like he's got to, with us running at it at the angle we run at it on the front side, he's got to bring the front side backer down.
Yeah.
And the backside guard, if you're running at the 3, the backside guard's got to keep that shade on the board. He's got to keep it unless they're on the line of scrimmage to give him an opportunity to press it, to bring the guy down, then take the cut that he's going to feel.
All right. No, that makes sense. Okay. How much I mean, obviously you learned a lot from Jim Turner there. How much technique wise in variety do you see across your offensive line in terms of approaching different techniques? 'Cause I'm assuming you probably see a bunch of the 4-eye stuff right now
Yep.
because everybody in America, that's their answer to zone. And it's
Yep.
also just their general. I mean, that's the fad right now. Let's just be honest. That's the defensive fad. So how do you approach 4-eyes with it? Let's start there.
Yeah. And so, versus the 4-eye game and all that, in the odd front, we'll read the nose. The big thing we talk about, and you talked about footwork earlier, is we talk about what our target is. And so our target for a play side covered lineman is going to be the play side via the neck. And then the uncovered lineman, his target's going to be the near hip. So versus that 4-eye, it's going to be more of a true double almost fit lift on the front side. And that's like you said, it's the hard part we're running into is how do you get the back? We all want the ball. We know if we're running at the 4-eye, it's got to hit outside the tackle.
Yeah.
How do you get that done? And so our deal is we would then push it to wide zone, or just talk to that back about, hey, we're going to push it, but understand this ball's fitting frontside B.
Yeah.
Frontside C gap right here versus those 4-eyes. But it changes this up a little bit. It's one thing. I'm lucky. I'm a huge 11 personnel guy, and I'm lucky Coach Dodge is more like his foundation was 10 personnel, 2x2, 3x1 spread, Southlake Carroll football when he started here with his dad. But I'm lucky in that he lets me. We go 11, we go 12 to kind of help take that frontside edge off and let that ball get out there a little bit.
Now we have to clarify for people who've not seen the Southlake Carroll football. When you say 11, do you mean true 11, or do you mean 11 as in it's really 20?
Well, so we're true 11, to be honest.
Okay.
And so kind of where we've been our best. Our first year we got here, we didn't know up from down, kids wide personnel, and so we stayed in true 10 and made that inside receiver at the tight end for a little bit.
Yeah.
And he did the best he could, but he was outgunned a little bit at his size. About halfway through the year, our backup quarterback just said, "Coach, I want to get on the field." He's 6'4", almost 6'5", big kid. Just was our backup at the time, and we ended up moving him to tight end, and so we ended up playing with the true 11. The following year, our second season, we were fortunate. He was really good in the passing game. He ended up signing. He's at Texas A&M now. And so we were able to get in every formation we wanted to, but we stayed in our 10, which was him as the inside receiver, and did the same thing this year. Our inside receivers become that guy. So I say we're 11, but I'm kind of talking on both sides of my mouth right there.
That's fine. Hey, when you got good kids, you use them how you can use them. That's the benefit of it. But how much do you put in fullback, H sniffer, however we want to call it, and do some of the split inside zone or the other game? Like, there's a billion different things you can do with that. Like, I think that's why people love inside zone, the ones that do, because it's so multiple. There's so many things you can not block the backside, force defender and read them and run off them. You can run RPOs. Like, RPOs are very easy off of it. You can run RPOs about off anything, but it's very easy. The hold backside defenders. You can bring in that H fullback kid and run all kinds of blocking adjustments with it. How much do you mess with that in your inside zone, and what do you kind of focus on?
Yeah, we do a ton. We do a ton. I think, especially if you're a spread offense or an up-tempo deal, the quarterback's got to be big in the run game. And we're blessed to have a really, really good quarterback. But at the same time, we can't run him to death. His strength is throwing the football. So we're very creative on what we do with that H on, do we arc it this week and read that end? And we know, is that what we want to do this week based on how much do we want to run a quarterback that week? And then two, how can we block backside stuff? How can we block that extra defender? Because in our world, in the O-line, you want the ball handed off, right? The quarterback's great. It's a good adjustment to pull it every once in a while. But we want to hand it to our running back as much as we can. So we get into it a lot. Our base foundation is going to be read the end. Our H is going to always block the overhang backside defender, whether we split flow it or whether we same-side it. And then from there, our progression is cutting those backside. Our guys aren't great at I shouldn't say aren't great. We don't measure in true split flow. Just, the big on collision on that backside end, that's not really what we're going to ask them to do. but we'll help them out with motions and shifts to get them to where we want to set the front one way, run it at a particular front, and then have him cap the backside one way or the other. So it's a big part of what we do. It really is at that H-back.
And then I'm just gonna be jumping around a bunch of different directions. You mentioned wide zone there. Is that your main complement when you get away from the inside zone split flow stuff, or is there something else that you naturally complement in terms of running?
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what we majored in and talked about a lot this spring. And so our kids were not great at wide zone. That's not something. Play number 2 on the list is not necessarily going to be wide zone for us. Just for what we see and all that. So we have a lot of compliments off our inside zone with jet sweeps, with what we call our away package, where we're zoning to the right, but the running back and the ball is going to the left. It's a great game starter if you feel like you're outgunned a little bit or you want to get your feet wet. So we'll do a lot of misdirection. Backfield's going one way, we're going the other.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we get the ball on the perimeter, is by handing the ball, just outrunning the backside end that we know is going to squeeze because they're going to see inside zone all night. But we're going to do the same thing. We're going to zone. We're going to get them squeezing the balls and get outside that way to the perimeter where we have good angles and numbers.
Okay.
We'll do the same thing off our inside zone with our jet series. So we would be in like a 11 personnel tied into the right on the right hash, 2x2 formation. We would bring the single receiver from the boundary in fast motion.
Yeah.
We're just going to run inside zone to the boundary. And if we have good angles and leverage outside, we're just going to hand the jet and we're going to zone to the right and the ball's going to go to the left.
Okay.
And we're just going to outrun that end. And then if we feel like we're getting any pre-snap rotation, we'll just hand the ball to the inside zone and run it to the back. And now you just have eye candy with the jet. So that's kind of our variation of getting the ball outside, is our jet series, our away series, and our pitch series, where we're zoning right and the ball's going left. Okay. And so I really like that stuff, especially in big games where we're seeing real fronts. And we just kind of want to get our feet wet and see what it's going to be in our top 7 runs. It's going to be there's going to be at least one of those in there.
Okay.
As a perimeter run that gets the play started for us.
Now, I want to go back to technique because I think that's kind of the more important aspect of this conversation as we jump around. And I really didn't, and I should have asked this earlier, is for your center. How do you teach footwork and hands, just general technique for difference between, saying, having head up or one, as I call it. Everybody's gap.
Everybody's different.
Got technique differences are. Yeah, there needs to be a universal. And then say a 2-eye. How much difference in technique and combo calls do you modify for your center there?
So we put a lot of heat on our center. And so say we're running it to a 2-eye on the front side. Our big thing is how we want to, and I'm saying to a traditional 4-2 box, 2-eye and a 5 on the play side. Our big thing is we want to stay in a front side guard tackle combination. Going back to, we want displacement on the front side. If we have good angles on the front, our guard and tackle are going to work to the front side backer. Our center is going to be in a man block against that 2-eye. And it's a hard angle, and I know it's kind of pushed over, but it helps us get better displacement on the front side. And so we'll talk about him having to be in a man block, and we give him 5 targets to shoot at. Play side wingtip, play side V, midline, backside V, backside wingtip. And so our standard issue is, hey, your target's play side V if you're covered, unless you're in a man block by yourself. Now your target's the midline. And so versus that 2-eye, he would drop step, and now his target is the midline, and he is just going to work to keep that 2-eye on the board. Okay. Same idea versus the shade. It's just a little bit easier to him. A lot of times we'll man that shade, front side combo the guard and tackle, and that allows our backside guard and tackle to lift the backside 3. Just him understanding, again, if we're getting a lot of movement of that front, then we turn it into a full backside guard and center combination.
Okay.
And then his target's going to be more play side V. It's going to be a little looser because he knows the backside guard's coming because we're anticipating some movement off that.
And I forget who I had this conversation with about counting inside zone. Is there a point where they're just too wide that you just say no? And how do you teach that to your kids so there isn't any confusion? Because you know, there's those teams that'll be like, he's not a 5, but he's not. He's a little wide, or you have somebody outside that 5, which could, in theory, if you counted it a certain way, it would mess up your count. How do you approach those things?
Are you talking play side guard and tackle, or are you more back into the center again, like working to that 2-eye?
Play side guard and tackle.
So to ours is we always talk about, if you're talking about like a 5 and a guy outside that tackle, pre-snap, I always tell them if that guy's on the line, he can walk up and hold hands. We're going to put him in the count.
All right.
If he's in that, and because it's the whole RPO world of, we're going to sit there and look at him and say, you said on Sunday you're going to throw off that guy. Well, now all of a sudden he's down there, the safety's rolled down, the quarterback coach is saying we can't throw off that guy anymore. And I said, well, heck, we just spent all week saying you were. So we always talk about if he's down in that position where if they walked up, they could hold hands, he's in the count, put him in the count. And so now it goes into, if we're working a play side guard tackle combination out to it, it's still play side V near hip. But as we push to it now, it can kind of turn into what we call man blocks. If our tag is our play side guard and tackle, if it's unfolded, now we're in man blocks. Tighten your target instead of play side V, shoot one slot tighter, which is midline.
Okay.
And so now we would just tighten our targets and go at it that way, with the idea of, guys, the ball's not coming out there. The ball's going to come inside of you. Keep it on the board, keep it on the line of scrimmage, and press and get displacement. We'll slide underneath it and get the play started at least.
And then kind of, I want to swing back to the backside, because I mean, I have learned the backside is so dang important in high school. It's not even funny. Like even on, like in gap schemes, like because we've run belly ISO the past 3 years at 2 years at Fairborn when I was there. And the thing, I mean, the front side is always good, but that backside is essentially zone for us. And there, if you don't get that backside linebacker, it's a pain in the ass. I mean, how do you teach them to get your lift, obviously, and obviously RPOs slow down some of that backside linebacker, all that lovely stuff. But if you're not RPOing, or if you're RPOing somebody else, how do you teach them to not only lift but climb?
Yeah, and so kind of going back to Coach Turner, one thing I was able to learn from him, and it's been gold for me. We gave it release your technique names for that backside guard tackle. So if we're running it to a shade and they got a backside head up 2 or 3, and you're working to that backer, we talk a ton about pre-snap, where that backer alignment is determines the technique you get to use.
Okay.
And so he had 4 techniques that he taught, and then we teach here. If the backside linebacker is minus or behind the play, backside of you and off your body, we call that a lift technique. If the backside linebacker is behind you, but he's kind of touching your outside shoulder, we call that a ricochet technique, where it's kind of like the bullet off the wall. He's on zone step. He's going to ricochet back to the 3 to kind of tighten up that tackle, and then he's off at his angle. If he's plus and on our body, we call that a hand check. We're going to hand check our way out. We're going to step to it, throw a backside hand, and hand check ourselves. Don't get stuck in it. We still work at that angle. And then if he's plus and on my body, and off my body, that's a gone call. The only one we need to communicate to that backside tackle is if I'm gone. Because if not, he's anticipating a little bit of something one way or the other.
Yeah.
And we rep that, Coach, I'm telling you, every day for 5 minutes, whatever it means. We have our 2-man drill that we work. But having those terms for a high school kid has been gold for me. Because the hardest part is to get that backside guard to understand the tempo of what you want. And so we talk about those terms in meetings we're using. Hey, I think this is going to be an opportunity to lift. If he's right here, he's a really good player. I know it says to lift. The book says to lift, but your skill set and his skill set can determine if you change that. And he's a real linebacker. It's going to look like a lift, but you need a ricochet.
Yeah.
And so that really has helped us in meetings and drills and kids understanding what you want. And I'll tell you where it's really helped me a ton is on the side, just in game. All of a sudden, little Johnny's getting stuck on that backside 3. And like you said, that backside backer's flying over the top. And you can have that conversation of, hey, what technique are you using? Coach, I'm lifting. All right, let's get out of it. Let's go to a ricochet. Or let's get out of it and try a hand check and see how that works for you. And he immediately knows what you want. You're not having that great discussion of trying to explain what you want on the backside. Hey, I want you to take 2 steps and do this. He understands what you want based on the technique you're telling him.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, you mentioned drills there. How do you just from the simplistic standpoint, how do you drill inside zone?
So this is kind of what we work. This is our backside tackle cutting off on the back. If he's working like a backside tackle, this could be backside guard. So here we're running inside zone to the right. The linebacker is behind and off our body. So we use the term minus. Yeah. Minus and off our body. And so that's a lift. And so as he goes right here, he's going to work now lifting through the defender, holding on until it comes time to come off, keeping his play side hand free. We got these little short boards right here that have been really fantastic for us because it keeps us from false stepping and all that, and I don't have to lug an 8 foot long heavy board around. And so now this is our backside guard. Now this would be our ricochet. He's minus. He's a lot closer than the one you saw before. Now this is going to be our ricochet, and I'm off. And then here's another good ricochet of our backside tackle. So this would be, if we're running inside zone to the right, say to a 3, and the backside guard now is working what we call a scoop versus, and do this. We have a defensive tackle right there. We call our backside guard tackle scoop to 64, and we would be now in a man block situation where now we call 2 out the back.
Yeah.
And so now he's going to play 2 out the back. Well, what technique do you use 2 out the back? Well, coach, so now you're ensuring. As soon as we touch the end, we tell the quarterback you hand it off. So now there's our ricochet for 2 out the back. There's the guard ricochet. Kind of got ahead of myself a second ago. Ricochet here. So now he's plus. There's our hand check. And so This is just the whole progression that we're teaching the guy that's getting off. And what's great about doing this drill, this could be the right tackle. We talked about the 4-eye game. So this could be your right tackle now working a front side combination.
Yeah. And
he's driven. So if I have to flip this kid over the right tackle, he understands, hey, if I'm working a tag at 54, he's plusing off my body, I got a hand check.
Yeah.
If this guy's minusing on my body, I'm ricocheting the lift in this 4-eye. And so it's a drill. They don't realize they're getting cross-trained, but they're getting cross-trained a little bit in there. Same thing. There's your handshake by your backside guard. And then there's just your gone call. Just working the backside gone. So that's kind of the beginning foundation of our combination of how we teach it on the releaser technique. And then the next drill that I got that I really just, our kids believe in and we work it like crazy, we call it our 2-man drill.
Okay.
And the kids know right now, hey, set the 2-man drill up. This would be our left tackle, left guard. 5 yards away would be the center right guard with the same alignment, a front side shade and a backside bubble, or front side bubble, same deal. And we really spend a lot of our time coaching the defense in fall camp and say, here's how they're the key to this whole drill. And so we tell, we've all done this drill where you tell this defensive end right here, hey, I want you to go here. I want you to go here. And then I want you to go here. And you just point and play that game all day, right? Well, now we just set it up and we really coach these kids. You go wherever you want. If you want to go outside, hug it tight and stay outside. Linebackers, shuffle, scrape. You're responsible for B if he goes outside. If he spikes in and gets stuck in that tackle, you fit off however you fit off. If he pirates in, then you now got to scrape over the top. And so we really work the defense right here. And like I said, that end's going a little wide. But now we're talking play side V, near hip, run off the ball, get displacement on the front side. Now we come, and so how we teach it is we would do 1 rep at this alignment, okay? And then I would go work the center right guard. And then I would work the backside tackle. We're all working inside zone to the left. So we're just rapid fire right down the line.
Yeah.
Play side shade, bubble, backside tackle, cut off. Then after we get 1 rep there, we would come back and now he's head up. The center and right guard would have a head up shade and the linebacker just plays right off his buddy again. So now you're working an odd front. Now this kid's also being trained, hey, you're the right guard working the backside. So they're getting a lot of cross training as they go and they really don't understand it. Now you can see the guys going in, now the backer's fitting over the top. And so we're just kind of working that. Last alignment would be now he's a 4-eye, now he's a pushed out overhang, and now we're working that combination. And so it's a heck of a drill for us. We rep the heck out of it and work the different techniques that this kid can give this tackle. With the easy one is when he goes outside. We all know what to tell the kid to do. The big one we really have to focus on as we go is if he zones to here and this guy, you get a big heavy-handed DN or 4 technique that just sits right in his chest.
Yeah.
What do you tell the guard to do, coach? And so our big thing is you take it, you throw it back out in his lap, and you continue flat on your track. And so we'll show, like right here, you can see the left guard a little bit kind of pushing back out into his lap. And so we just work the different ways the defense can do it, but to me, it's really efficient because you get a lot of different work, and you're cross-training kids without them kind of realizing they're being cross-trained. Then we'll come back and do it the other way. Now we would completely flip it right here. Now you're working your 30 inside zone to the right, and now this kid's working as a cover, this kid's working as the uncovered, and you go out about it again.
Yeah.
So that's one of the drills that we that we kind of really spend a ton of time on is our releaser drill and then our 2-man drill.
I really like that. I really like the releaser stuff because it's simple. Like and you're working and you're preventing false steps too, which is the bane of any high school offensive line coach.
No doubt. And it's just, to me, it's always, what do you tell that kid, especially in the middle of the game when that kid knows he's struggling. And like, Coach, I can't get to the backside backer. I'm doing what you told me, and I can't get to it. Now you can give that kid, to me, immediate feedback of what you want. You can easily, when I was in Carthage one year, we were playing for a state title, and the kid could not cut the backside off. And just being able to talk to him on the bench, like, all right, what technique are you using? Coach, I'm ricocheting. All right, hey, let's just move it to a hand check. You're gonna be fine. Just move it to a hand check and don't get yourself stuck. And the kid immediately knew what I wanted, and I felt like I could give him an easy answer. And I didn't have to take a marker and draw anything.
Yeah.
I said, hey, hand check your way out. You'll be fine. And the kid did it, and it was just an easy. It makes my job easy, being able to give those terms to them where they understand truly what you want.
Yeah. When you're looking for offensive line in your inside zone scheme, what do you kind of look for position wise? Obviously, you said you put a lot on your center. He's got to be able to handle a lot, but like just in general, from your tackles and your guards and your center, what personnel wise, when you're running inside zone, what are you looking for?
Kind of starting inside out. Our centers, to me, has got to be the guy, because I love running inside zone to a shade. And so we're going to put a lot of heat on him that he can drop step and reach that shade and keep it on the board and press it and just not get blown straight up the field. So our best lineman, or one of our best linemen, is going to be that center.
Yeah.
We've been blessed. I mean, our center this year is going on to play college football. The center before him, our first year, is at Duke. So I've been lucky here to always have a really good center. But saying that, I just feel like that's got to be an athletic kid. There's some athleticism to being able to drop step, snap a ball, drop step, and go. Our guards and tackle, our guards have been all kinds of body shapes. We've had shorter guards that have been 6 foot or, right at 6 foot. We've had guards that are 6'4". But to me, the guard has got to be the sturdy one.
Yeah. He's
got to be able to one, like if you're running inside zone at that shade, that backside three is not going to lay one hand. If he lays a hand on him and plays into him like he should, he's not going to compress your backside guard. Like, he's got to be sturdy and get that second foot in the ground and have some presence about his body. And then our tackles have got to be able to run. Yeah. Like you said, you've got to cut that backside three off. And so they've got to be able to run and get that done in the run game. With running at our tackles, to me, our weaker tackle will probably run at him because it's an easier job. We're not asking him to do as much.
Yeah.
Step, press the 5, expand the 5 as much as you can, keep him on the line of scrimmage and keep him outside. That's, to me, that's not that hard. It's, you want to run away from your good ones sometimes.
Yeah. Now, and last main question I got for you. Actually, I got 2 questions for you before we wrap up. One, how much just dumb fronts do you see? Because, like, I've been in part of the wing T for about half or a variation of an under center wing front, and we always get just stupid fronts. Just like, oh, here's a 7-1 diamond, or here's this weird alignment. How much do you? I mean, because obviously you guys have different hashes than we do. You see more college style defenses than we do because of how wide our hashes are. But just to kind of try to stop you, how much just weirdness do you see?
Some, and I know that's not a great answer, just saying the word some, but out here, it's a really good brand of football. And I try to, being at A&M, the big difference I saw there was people recruit really good players, and they just get them on the field and they line them up sound and let them go play. Like, now, if you got to third down, you're fixing to see something that was make your hair stand up. If it's third and long, you better be ready. But first and second down, these are our kids, and we're going to go play. And it's very similar here in that first and second down out here, you're going to have a front. Now, they may spike the front and move the front, but it's going to be pretty standard issue what you see. Saying that, maybe 2 times a year, I'm going to see something that's going to be completely I've never seen, and how are we going to do this? They were just twisting and moving and trying to throw. To me, it's like they're throwing something at a wall and see if they can run into it. But we really don't see a lot of that. When I was in East Texas, a small school in East Texas, you see a little more because guys were hiding personnel. Yeah. You had a 5'8", 200-pound nose guard. Well, they can't. He's not going to sit there and play a traditional 3-4 nose at that size. So he's going to move and slant, and they're going to rock the front. So I saw a little bit more of that when I was at a smaller school.
Yeah.
because they were having to hide smaller bodies. But out here at our level of football, they line up great and line up where they're supposed to, and they play hard, and you just got to play well.
Now, how much, and this is the last one I got for you, how much slanting, like twisting you see? Because when I talk to Ohio University's O-line coach, that's what they see in the MAC. Like the MAC, it's a lot of movement. It's a lot of, he has to rep the crap out for his inside and wide zone. They have to rep the crap out of twist, slant, just all kinds of movement that you might not necessarily see at other levels or so forth. How much of that do you see and how do you rep it?
Yeah, and so we see a ton of it from our defense in the spring. Like I feel like day one, I'm like, oh, here, like literally, I think it was day one, snap one. We got NT twist on the inside zone. I'm like, really, we're starting here. It's you know how it goes with defensive guys. And I give them a hard time. I was like, at some point in fall camp, we're going to be sitting around the staff table and you're going to be complaining how you guys can't play a base reach block. And that's, well, you had 15 practices in spring and you chose the NT twist the entire time. But we do see that a lot. You see people set that 3 to the back and TE on the backside, and so we work it. But the thing I don't like doing is I don't like spooking the kids on twist, because I feel like they've got to have conviction in their heart to run off the ball and trust their target. And so if we see a lot of twist, the big thing we talk about is we don't slow them down. Is get your second foot in the ground, and so we'll rep that. If your second foot's right and the movement happens, you should shoot it and snap up against it, and it'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do see it a lot. Like I said, we see a lot of TE twist on the backside, and we'll see a little bit on the front side of that nose tackle twist, just trying to loop into it.
Yeah.
And how we teach it is if we're like man blocking it to a shade and that nose crosses backside, we just tell that center snap back up against it and tighten up the backside guard. And you kind of whip it into a backside 3-man combo deal on the run, without having to redo your calls. Now, if we know we're game planning, you don't see it, we would stay in more full zone backside combos with the center backside guard to handle that and just kind of set our shoulder. And the other thing we talk about, if we know we're going to see it a lot, is we just set our tracks a little wider.
Yeah.
And get our second foot in the ground and then let that thing happen and snap up against it as we go.
All right.
Sorry.
I think that's become the default answer is some of that twist game stuff. So you got to figure out how to practice it, rep it, and teach it. Like
100%.
Some people just push stuff, and it becomes interesting after a certain point for the inside zone stuff. So
yeah, and I tell our head coach, because you're going to have lost yardage plays. It is, coach, it's coming. I promise you, it's coming. But just we got to keep believing in it, because it's going to pop.
Yeah.
And once you pop it, hopefully that'll spook them out of it, and you can continue on about what you want to do. But, and then, like I said, the next answer to that would be to fall back, like you said, to some of your gap stuff that, hey, we're just not tracking it good. It's hitting us in the face. Let's gap it down and let's move to something else tonight.
Yeah.
It's kind of always something to have in your back pocket there.
Coaches, that was Coach Chris Smith. His contact information will be in the bio. So if you want to reach out to him more about this or anything else they do at Carroll, which they do a lot of good stuff, either send him an email or give him a follow and a DM. Make sure you check out the Patreon and all the affiliates and sponsors and all that lovely jazz. If you want to go back and listen to any part of our conversation, whether it be the drill section, or any of our conversation, even the running back portion we talked briefly, just see the tags below, whether you're watching the visual or listening to the audio. All that stuff will be tagged in the bio as normal. And other than that, like, share, subscribe. That way other coaches can find this as well. And other coaches can hear Coach here talk. Thank you. And that was another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.